I am talking today about shingles, and I want to talk first of all about shingles, where it comes from, what it is, and why it shows up. Thank you so much for letting me know that my audio wasn't working earlier on. That's so good. I really appreciate the feedback, because otherwise I would have done the whole thing in silence just to myself. So what shingles is it's known as herpes zoster as well. So it is a part of the herpes family, but not related really to herpes simplex, which is what causes oral and genital herpes. It's not the same. It's caused by the varicella zoster virus, and that is the chickenpox virus that we have as children. So what can happen is we have chickenpox as a child, we get the varicella zoster virus as a child, and it can then lay dormant in our system attaching to a nerve root in our body, and it can then reactivate as an adult, and it's often over the age of 50, although it often does also happen under that age. It just seems to be more common in the older population. And when it reactivates, it can cause shingles. So shingles, when we swab the lesions caused by shingles, we find the varicella zoster virus in those lesions. So it's exactly the same virus as the chickenpox virus, but it's presenting in a different way. You can't catch shingles. You can't catch shingles from someone who has it. You cannot catch, you can catch chickenpox from someone who has shingles if you come in contact with the lesions where the varicella zoster virus is, but you can only get shingles if you have been exposed to the varicella zoster virus earlier in your life and it lays dormant. What brings it out is stress-related issues. So that may be physical stress or it may be emotional stress. And I find it very, very interesting that it's the emotional stress is the energetic stuff. So that is often the case, and often the energetic stuff is what actually comes with the physical stuff too. So that stress is very, very important. And that may be the stress of, it may be the stress of work, it may be the stress of an immune crisis in the body, because stress decreases our immune system's ability to work, and then we become more susceptible to viruses. But I want to speak just for a minute about viruses, because viruses are not what we think they are. Viruses are very, very different. They are not the enemy. We have been treating them as the enemy for many, many years, and that isn't the case. Yes, of course, they can cause suffering, they can cause pain, they can even cause death. However, they are a natural part of our ecosystem that we live in, and they can become a natural part of our internal ecosystem as well. So what happens is that we are only susceptible to a virus if we are energetically vulnerable. We cannot be attacked or made sick by a virus. I don't like using the word attacked because they don't really attack us. What happens is that they thrive, and something creates that thriving environment for the virus, and they're able to take over and give us the symptoms of that viral infection. The same thing happens with a bacterial infection or a fungal infection. We're only susceptible if we are energetically vulnerable to that particular strain. So these things can live in our system forever. You may have had chickenpox as a child. It may well be living dormant in your system. That does not mean it's going to jump up and bite you in the butt at some point. It just means that if you become energetically susceptible at some point, it may well present as a virus in your body. So they are not the enemy, and I want you to start to think of viruses as not the enemy, because when we set them up as the enemy, we are creating an enemy out of nothing. We're creating something to fight against, and our immune system is not the warring army we think it is. It is the welcoming committee that helps to show people, show organisms where they're supposed to go in our systems. Like, hey, come over here. Yep, you don't belong here. You need to go down this way. Okay, great. Okay, where are your friends? Okay, they can go down with you. That's our immune system. It's actually going to organize and welcome and just, assimilate or process what's going on. And if something doesn't belong there or needs a bit of extra love and attention, it comes in to support you. So what happens with shingles, and I want to talk about the energetic side of shingles for a moment, because shingles can become quite a serious thing that lasts for a very long time in some people. Some people, it's a short-term thing that lasts for a short time, and it's characterized by pain and a rash that follows a particular nerve root in the body. So it attaches to the nerve root of the spine, and it will show up as a rash, often with the blistering effect of chickenpox, and it will be along the dermatome of that nerve root, the dermatomal map of where that sensory nerve root will go in the body. So what happens is that When we are energetically vulnerable, we have this reactivation of the virus. And there's a reason for that. And I'll talk about that in a moment. But what does it mean to become energetically vulnerable to this particular virus, the herpes, the varicella zoster virus in this form when it turns into shingles? So we've had it before. We're immune to it. Why does it sit dormant and why does it reactivate? All of the reasons are energetic. So what I want to speak about right now is specifically what's coming up when we have shingles. And that is, we are being shown that our body is feeling, and our energy body as well, we are feeling trapped. If you have suffered from shingles or are suffering from the post effects of shingles, which can include some neuralgic issues like post-herpetic neuralgia. It's come into your life to give you a pause. And yes, it's a painful pause, but it's one to show you that you have been feeling trapped. And that may be trapped in a job that you don't like or it doesn't serve you. It may be feeling trapped by your financial circumstances, by a mortgage that you can't afford. And perhaps even that's related to the job you're trapped in to pay the mortgage that you can't afford. It may be that you're feeling trapped in a retirement that isn't what you envisaged in your retirement. It may be that you are feeling trapped by your finances in a different way. It may be that you're feeling trapped in a marriage that doesn't serve you or a relationship that doesn't serve you. It may just be simply that you're feeling trapped in some other way, and that frustration, that anger has started to flow out and create this level of stress that lowers your immune system in a particular way that brings this vulnerability to the varicella zoster virus, which is sitting there to serve you. It's not sitting there to attack you and bring you down. Pain does not feel like service, but it is. It is service. Your body is serving you with this pain because it is giving you a pause with which to reconsider the choices you have made to bring you to this point in your life. So if you have suffered shingles in the past, or you know someone who is suffering shingles, feel free to share this video with them. Or if you yourself are suffering from it right now, allow yourself to explore why it has shown up for you now. Allow yourself to explore where you are ignoring your intuitive hits to find your way out of this situation in which you feel trapped, to find your way into a place where you feel like you are thriving in life, a relationship, a job, all your life choices, a home in which you feel like you are thriving, finances in which you feel like you are thriving. Where are your choices keeping you trapped? Where are you ignoring your intuitive hits that will help you, to give you that helping hand to step up and out of this trap situation? And that is what your body is inviting you to do with shingles. And it is a long pause. Some people it can be 6 months. Some people it's only a few weeks. Others it can be a year or more. So it's a long pause. The longer and more painful the pause, the bigger your choices need to be to shift out of this feeling of being imprisoned. And that is what your body is supporting you with. That is where this virus supports you. It is giving you an out. In a way, it gives you a reason to have time off work to consider your options. It gives you a reason to be able to be supported by those around you with which to start to really explore what will light you up, what will serve you, and where you will feel abundant in your life. So allow yourself to see this virus as that offer, if you like, in that it will allow you that pause to reconsider your choices, because everything is a choice. We may need to make some difficult choices. It may be difficult financial decisions. It may be perhaps changing our outlook around what our plans were for our retirement, or changing our outlook around what our plans are for our house, if that's the thing that is giving you the financial stress and feeling trapped in your job that you might not enjoy, or whatever it may be for you that gives you that feeling of frustration and being trapped. That is why this virus has shown up, to give you that gift. So it's an invitation from your body to explore that in more detail for you. And Eileen, thank you for joining me today, everybody. Thank you, Marion. Thank you, Tom and Karen. Thank you so much for joining me live. Eileen says, I'm finding my mother is in the vulnerable zone now, especially as her doctor and media keep trying to influence her to get the vaccination. Yes, there is this new vaccination, and it's an incredibly powerful vaccination. It's 14 times the strength of the children's varicella vaccination for chickenpox. So, it is starting to show that it is decreasing the rates. So it may well decrease the rates of shingles. It's also decreasing the rates of post-herpetic neuralgia. So it may be of benefit to some people who are already immunocompromised. But the thing is that if we are in that state and feeling vulnerable of shingles, we need to explore these things in advance, because if we explore where we are already feeling trapped, if we explore where we are already feeling trapped by our choices, by our circumstances, by our relationships, our job, our finances, and if we start to make the changes and take action, we don't need the shingles to give us the pause. And our body doesn't have the shingles to give us the pause. So that's why it can remain dormant in our system and never show up, because it doesn't need to. We don't need it to be there. And that's the same for all viruses, all bacterial infections. We only have them show up in our body if we need them to. And Karen says, I had shingles at 16, which was awful. Yes, it's incredibly painful. There's nothing quite like neuralgic pain, and it's very hard to explain. And one of my clients was saying it was like a knife that would come in at least, when they least expect it, this knife go right through to the bone, including whilst sleeping, sitting bolt upright in bed with this stabbing feeling. So it can be incredibly painful, incredibly itchy, incredibly hot, and very, very sore. So I do have a huge amount of empathy for those who have suffered from shingles, but it's still creating an offer, and often that will be that pause. It will be that chance to go within and explore what's going on for you. And so I invite you to share your experiences of shingles, to share and reflect back, if you have had shingles, onto that time in your life and what changed because of the shingles. What did you have to change? Did you change your job at that point? Did you have to take time out of work and perhaps go into something new, like being a yoga instructor or something completely different? Did you have to change your relationship because of your experience? Did you have to change your living circumstances because of your experience? What has changed for you? Or are you living with long-term neuralgic pain as a result of shingles? Because I find that very curious as well. I'm very interested in some of these things that often other people aren't interested in. I find them fascinating. So please do feel free to share your experience in the comments. Marion, you lost your job. Was that from shingles? That's very interesting. I'm sorry to hear that you lost your job. That must be a very difficult journey. But I would love to know if that was because of shingles that you found that happened. And Karen totally explains a few things now about how I was energetically at that stage in my life. Exactly. And often it's only in retrospect that we can look back. Ideally, if we know in advance, we can spend that time really going within and using it for what it's come to us for. And often, life circumstances create that environment where perhaps we cannot keep our employment because we need so much time off because of the pain. But what we may not have done is really listen to our intuitive hits at that time to know that we needed to leave that job, that it was not serving us, that another job would work better for us. And if we left that job and had faith, it would arrive. We would have the perfect job show up for us. And so it's that invitation often. And so in retrospect, it is always easier, unfortunately. But if we know in the moment what the virus is offering us, what it is calling us. And unfortunately, modern medicine doesn't talk about viruses in this way. Viruses do serve us on a very deep level, and we are able to live in harmony with viruses, particularly the ones that affect us long term. We are able to live in harmony with them because they are still showing up to help us get to where we need to be quicker. Whatever our journey is, for each of us, it's quite unique, but our journey is always towards a higher level of awakening. And so a virus will show up to take us there if it needs to, if that's what will serve us the most. And Marion was saying just before I was made redundant, it took them 2 years to work out who was going to go. So it was stressful. That does sound very stressful. And often those redundancies do come and create so much stress at work when we start seeing other people being made redundant as well. And so that again, that does lower the immune system. That does create that situation in which we do get that stress that does reactivate this virus. This particular virus loves to reactivate around stress. 5 years later, I still feel it on my left shoulder. About 5 years. My goodness, Marion, that's quite a journey. I honour your journey there. That is a long time to have that constant reminder. And so this pain, it does follow our nerve root out to a specific area. Some physical treatment modalities can actually help, although they're generally not spoken about that widely, but some physical body work can help because it is neuralgic nerve pain. So what you're experiencing there is that nerve root being overactivated. So we can work to decrease the inflammation around the nerve root. You can do that through manual therapy. So you may find that if you can find a practitioner in your area who has experience working with nerves and nerve roots, that you are able to perhaps lessen some of your discomfort. But I do invite you to explore where you have been feeling trapped and where you've been feeling the victim of that work situation, because that does sound quite stressful. And what intuitive guidance you've been receiving, start to lean more into that as to what comes next. What's next for you? Because that's quite an exciting thing to start to really explore. What's next for your life choices? What's next for your exciting things that you're going to be doing? What more could there be for you in your life? And that is where to start exploring, because living in that time, living in that memory and that traumatic experience of the job will be keeping you stuck and attached to that pain and that diagnosis. You can be free from that pain. It does not need to be with you always. It is working on why that pain is here and what it's offering you, what it gives you right now. And that, when we work on that, then we can start to release the pain, because if we gift it to ourselves first, if we gift that exploration or that rest to ourselves first, we no longer need the pain in which to create the situation that we get rest and reflection. So it can help us to release it. It does sound simple, but it can be a very quick process. So I know I am absolutely certain you have tried many things, but I do invite you to try the manual options as well, because we can often forget that even though it's a virus, it's still a nerve, and we can affect our nerves. We can change what's happening with them. We can alter the state of inflammation around our nerves, not just by medication. I'm not a huge fan of medication, but around the manual therapy on those nerves, and also talking through what it is that you need to explore in order to release this pain. Thank you so much for joining me. Feel free to keep posting comments. I will continue to answer them as the day goes on. So feel free to post about your experiences with shingles and post any questions. I'm not entirely sure, because I did start this video with no sound, so I'm not entirely sure where what I had said that I didn't repeat later in the video when you could actually hear me. So feel free to post questions, because you may have missed some important stuff that I said before anyone could hear me. I was just talking to myself. But I appreciate you all being here with me live, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Mwah. Thanks for joining me.